In the first part of the series, we were introduced to the types of crimes and the criminals that commit them. We also learned about the parts of a crime, means, motive, and opportunity, and the timelines of different types of crimes. Remember that while we cannot affect the motive, understanding the motive will help us better affect the other two parts of the crime. And by affecting one piece of the puzzle, we can actually stop the crime from occurring. In this section of the series, we are going to be focusing on things you can do to make yourself less attractive to a criminal, because the first step in preventing being a victim of a crime is eliminating as many attractors as possible. That being said, a big part of being successful as a real estate agent is marketing yourself and making yourself as prominent as possible. We are going to discuss marketing yourself in a way that makes you attractive to legitimate buyers, but by making minor changes, you can make yourself much less attractive to criminals. Images are an important part of marketing yourself and your listings, but an incorrect picture can actually act as an attractor for both the profit and power motive criminals and start the targeting process. To reduce the risk of being targeted by someone with a power motive, avoid full body pictures. Whenever possible, you should use pictures that are at or above the shoulders. If your picture includes the upper body, be professional. Don't wear anything form-fitting. Wear a shirt that goes no lower than the top of the breastbone. Wear professional colors and wear a jacket if possible. All of these will help you project a professional and confident image, which will increase interest from legitimate potential clients while decreasing the interest of a predator. Be aware of the facial expressions and smiles that you are using in your images. We smile differently towards a client than we do towards a loved one. Here is an example of two different types of smiles. The one on the left is a professional smile. Notice that her head is straight up and down, no leaning to the side. She is looking straight into the camera with a full and confident smile. Her eyes are fully open without being strained, and her makeup is understated and professional. This smile shows confidence and openness while still establishing a professional boundary. The smile on the right is a very familiar and intimate smile. The tilt of the head, the softer eyes, the flatter smile all project intimacy and vulnerability, which are attractors to a predator or someone with a power motive. To reduce the risk of being targeted by someone with a profit motive, avoid flashy pictures that depict you with an expensive vehicle or toy, a nice-sized boat, for example. Jewelry should be kept to a minimum and should be understated. While you want to appear successful, wearing lots of expensive jewelry and showcasing yourself with expensive things can make you very attractive to a thief and cause you to become targeted by someone with a profit motive. The words used in your marketing messages have connotations, which is to say that they have an emotional value over and above the literal meaning. Remember that we talked about how criminals with a power motive are attracted to subservience, vulnerability, and weakness, because the power high is what they seek. Those who commit profit motive crimes are also attracted to subservience and weakness because it represents a lower risk, as that type of person will normally be more compliant and less likely to resist. In your marketing, choose words that convey confidence, power, knowledge, authority, etc. Here's two examples of two different ways to convey a message. First, here to serve all of your real estate needs, versus the experience to handle the entire real estate process. While on the surface, these both appear to be acceptable. However, the first statement implies servitude and subservience, which are attractors to a predator, where the second statement shows experience, confidence, and knowledge, which are negatives to a predator. Interestingly enough, it has been proven that authoritative language is more appealing to consumers and/or potential clients, because when they are looking to make a large purchase, and a home is probably one of the biggest and potentially most intimidating purchases that most of us will ever make, they are looking for the experience, the expertise, and the know-how to guide them through the process to make sure everything is done correctly. Therefore, you will actually increase your business using the more authoritative language, and you will make yourself less attractive to the criminal element. That's a win-win. Information to avoid in your marketing. Earlier we mentioned that the stalker behavior gives the predator an emotional high. Consequently, you'll want to ensure that the information you include in your marketing does not feed the stalking high or help the predator plan an attack in the instance that someone does fixate on you or target you. By limiting the high a predator can achieve by online stalking, you can increase the likelihood that they will lose interest in you. Avoid including the following information in your marketing materials: whether or not you have children, the neighborhood you live in. For example, instead of saying, "I'm an expert in the Hills subdivision, I've lived here for years," say something like, "I'm an expert in the Hills subdivision, I've worked with listings and families in this area for years." Pictures of your family, your personal favorite places, your gym, your grocery store, etc. Specific public networking groups to which you belong, specific neighborhood or school groups to which you belong. Remember, you can still convey your knowledge and expertise without revealing personal information. It's simply a matter of rewording the information. Social media. In today's day and age, social media is a critical marketing tool for the real estate agent. Unfortunately, it is also an important tool for predators and/or those who stalk. Remember, if you catch the attention of a predatory or obsessive individual, your best chance of having them lose interest is to give them little to no material of interest about you. Have separate personal and professional pages. This is an extremely important step. By separate, we mean that they should have different names, different contact information, and should not share images. For example, on your personal page, you can eliminate or abbreviate your last name and/or use a nickname that only those who know you well would know. Use your work email and phone number for your information on your professional page, and your personal email and phone number on your private page. Do not post the same images or messages on both pages. The professional page is where you put your listings, your open houses, etc., and that is the one that you use to communicate with your colleagues and clients. Personal page is where you post pictures of family and friends and personal information, and it should be locked down as tightly as possible in the security settings. On your professional profile, don't use location tracking. Don't post your habits. For example, "I love this coffee shop. I'm here every day at 8 a.m. and they always have my drink waiting for me." This is very important. If you have caught the attention of a predator or an obsessive individual, you do not want to make it easy to find or follow you. Don't post information that could be used to identify your children's school, your spouse's workplace, etc. Something that we recommend you do every few months: Google your own name, brokerage, and town. Based on the results, what could someone easily learn about you? If someone can learn information about your habits, your spouse, your children, etc., remove that information from public view. In our previous sessions, we talked about how the initial phone call, when someone first calls you to see a property, will be your first chance to evaluate the prospect. Evaluating a prospect in your initial conversation is easily done by using active listening, which is something I'm sure all of you are already using. Active listening, simply put, is a conversation style that uses open-ended questions to gather information and gain the trust of the individual by showing that you are listening. This allows you to have a better understanding of the prospect's needs, wants, and criteria so that you will have a list of potential properties that accurately fit their parameters. But by using the information we gathered during our property evaluation, which we will discuss further in this series, and the prospect's own reactions to the questions asked, we can also use this opportunity to uncover inconsistencies and potential red flags if a prospect isn't legitimate. Neighborhood and property information. This will be collected during your evaluation and assessment. If these statements are true, only tell the prospect true information. You'll want to mention them in the initial call. There's an active neighborhood watch. It's a tight-knit area and the neighbors seem to socialize regularly. There's law enforcement living in the neighborhood. The house is very light and open with plenty of windows. All of these would generally be attractive to a legitimate buyer, but would be unattractive to a criminal looking for a location to commit a crime. Listening to your prospect's responses to certain questions could also reveal potential red flags. Here's some examples of a conversation. The prospect calls an agent and says, "I saw this house online and I'd like to see it." The agent responds with, "Certainly. What about that house appealed to you?" Their response is, "I just liked it." That response would serve as a potential red flag. A legitimate potential buyer will have no problem articulating something specific about that property that prompted them to call. Another example. The agent says, "Okay, I'd like to make sure I can answer any questions you may have during the showing. Is there anything about the house or the neighborhood that's important for you to know or that you are specifically looking for?" The prospect says, "Not really." Again, The inability to answer a reasonable question about what they are looking for in a home would act as a red flag. Say, for example, that the prospect says they found you online. An agent could respond with, "That's great. I'm on a few different sites. Could you tell me which site you found me on so I know which site is getting my name out there?" If they can't name the site, that would be a red flag. If they name a site that you are not using, that would also be a red flag. The initial phone call is also an excellent time to bring up whether or not they have been pre-qualified. If they say yes, ask them for the name of their contact. If they say no, you can offer to help get them information on a mortgage company. For some offices, this is a matter of policy to have pre-approval paperwork, which makes this even easier. Remember, this is a fluid conversation and each one will be different. Each question will build on some aspect of the prospect's answer to the previous question, sending the clear signal that you are listening, which will build trust with a legitimate potential buyer. Don't be mechanical in your conversation or turn it into an interrogation. You are gathering information for a legitimate sale and you don't want to scare off a legitimate potential buyer, but listening for those inconsistencies could uncover red flags. Establishing control. Remember that criminals with a power motive are attracted to weakness and subservience and deterred by authority and power. Say, for example, the prospect asks to meet you on Thursday at 6 p.m. If that time doesn't work for you, let them know that Thursday at 6:30 is available or we can meet Friday at 6. Be friendly but firm and don't apologize. Avoiding a victim stance. Maybe the reason you can't meet at 6 is because your car is in the shop and you have a friend giving you a ride to the service station. Do not relay that information to the prospect as an explanation of why you cannot meet them. This projects a victim stance and weakness. Setting expectations. Let your prospect know about any special scenarios related to this property beforehand and set the expectation of how it will be handled. For example, if there is a finished basement at this location, let them know and let them know how you will be handling it. There is a finished basement at this location that you are welcome to explore. I will be at the top of the stairs to answer any questions you have once you have looked around. No justification given on why you won't go into the basement with them. The training play. The training play is a great tool, especially if you have any reservations about the legitimacy of this prospect. Once you have established your appointment time, let them know that you will be bringing someone else along on the appointment. Just so you know, I will be bringing another agent to the appointment. They are new to the brokerage and need to get some experience on how to handle a showing. The prospect's reaction can also serve as a red flag, because a legitimate prospective buyer won't have any problem with someone else coming to the appointment. If you don't bring anyone with you, most of the time the prospect won't even mention it. But if they do, simply explain that something else came up that the other agent had to attend to. Our next section will discuss pre-showing and evaluating a property and/or showing from a safety point of view.